The Belgian UFO wave was a series of sightings of triangular UFOs in Belgium, which lasted from the 29th of November 1989 to April 1990. The sightings. The Belgian UFO wave began in November 1989. The events of the 29th of November would be documented by no less than 30 different groups of witnesses, and 3 separate groups of police officers. All of the reports related a large object flying at low altitude. The craft was of a flat, triangular shape, with lights underneath. This giant craft did not make a sound as it slowly moved across the landscape of Belgium. There was free sharing of information as the Belgian populace tracked this craft as it moved from the town of Liege to the border of the Netherlands and Germany. The Belgian UFO wave peaked with the events of the night of 30-31 March 1990. On that night, unknown objects were tracked on radar, chased by 2 Belgian Air Force F-16s, photographed, and were sighted by an estimated 13,500 people on the ground, 2,600 of whom filed written statements describing in detail what they had seen. Following the incident, the Belgian Air Force released a report detailing the events of that night. At around 2300 on the 30th of March, the supervisor for the Control Reporting Center at Glons received reports that 3 unusual lights were seen moving towards Thorembijs-Gembloux, which lies to the southeast of Brussels. The lights were reported to be brighter than stars, changing color between red, green and yellow, and appeared to be fixed at the vertices of an equilateral triangle. At this point, Glons CRC requested the Wavre Gendarmerie send a patrol to confirm the sighting. Approximately 10 minutes later, a second set of lights was sighted moving towards the first triangle. By around 23:30, the Wavre Gendarmerie had confirmed the initial sightings and Glons CRC had been able to observe the phenomenon on radar. During this time, the second set of lights, after some erratic maneuvers, had also formed themselves into a smaller triangle. After tracking the targets and after receiving a second radar confirmation from the traffic center control at Semurtsaki, Glons CRC gave the order to scramble all 2 F-16 fighters from Beauvchain Air Base shortly before midnight. Throughout this time, the phenomenon was still clearly visible from the ground, with witnesses describing the whole formation as maintaining the relative positions while moving slowly across the sky. Witnesses also reported 2 dimmer lights towards the municipality of Igazi displaying similar erratic movements to the second set of lights. Over the next hour, the 2 scrambled F-16s attempted 9 separate interceptions of the targets. On 3 occasions, they managed to obtain a radar lock for a few seconds, but each time the targets changed position and speed so rapidly that the lock was broken. During the first radar lock, the target accelerated from 240 km per hour to over 1,770 km per hour while changing altitude from 2,700 meters to 1,500 meters, then up to 3,350 meters before descending to almost ground level, the first descent of more than 900 meters taking less than 2 seconds. Similar maneuvers were observed during both subsequent radar locks. On no occasion were the F-16 pilots able to make visual contact with the targets, and at no point, despite the speeds involved, was there any indication of a sonic boom. Moreover, narrator Robert Stack added in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, the sudden changes in acceleration and deceleration would have been fatal to one or more human pilots. During this time, ground witnesses broadly corroborate the information obtained by radar. They described seeing the smaller triangle completely disappear from sight at one point, while the larger triangle moved upwards very rapidly. rapidly as the F-16s flew past. After 0:30, radar contact became much more sporadic and the final confirmed lock took place at 0:40. This final lock was once again broken by an acceleration from around 160 km per hour to 1,120 km per hour, after which the radar of the F-16s and those at Glonz and Semertsaki all lost contact. Following several further unconfirmed contacts, the F-16s eventually returned to base shortly after 1 o'clock. The final details of the sighting were provided by the members of the Wavre Gendarmerie who had been sent to confirm the original report. They described 4 lights now being arranged in a square formation, all making short jerky movements, before gradually losing the luminosity and disappearing in 4 separate directions at around 1:30. Photograph. In April 1990, a photo of a triangular object upon which 3 lights are visible at each corner was taken by an anonymous photographer. Since then, a man named Patrick M. publicly claimed that the picture was a hoax by him. Skeptics say there is no background in the photograph and no element that would allow calculation of the object's size or distance from the camera. Wim van Utrecht, a Belgian skeptic, has reproduced a copy of the photograph with devices. A computer graphics simulation method to reproduce the photograph was developed by a Belgian mathematician, derivated at the University of Liège Laboratory of Astrophysics, wherein the apparent shake motion that results in the lights of the craft appearing blurred or out of focus in the photograph contradicts eyewitness statements. This, along with the anonymity of the photographer and fact that the image was not produced publicly until 4 months after the alleged event, brings the authenticity of the image into question. For 20 years, the ufological organization Société Belge d'études des phénomènes spatiaux claimed that this picture was genuine. But on the 26th of July 2011, in an interview for RTL, a Belgian TV channel, Patrick M. claimed that it was a hoax. Skeptical explanations. In 1992, about 3 years after the first sighting, which occurred on the 29th of November 1989 in Eupen, Belgian skeptic Mark Allert wrote an essay about the Belgian UFO wave criticizing the work done by the SOBEPS. Le Va-et-Vient Belge ou le triomphe de la désinformation, arguing that this ufological organization was spreading misinformations in the media. Allet's thesis is that the Belgian UFO wave was mostly a mass delusion, boosted by the work done by the SOBEPS. This mass delusion would have followed Philip J. Klass's law. Once news coverage leads the public to believe that UFOs may be in the vicinity, there are numerous natural and man-made objects which, especially seen at night, can take on unusual characteristics in the minds of hopeful viewers. The UFO reports in turn add to the mass excitement, which encourages still more observers to watch for UFOs. This situation feeds upon itself until such time as the media lose interest in the subject, and then the flap quickly runs out of steam. In 1993, Pierre Magain and Marc Remy published an article in Physicalia magazine, in which the conclusions don't match those from the SOBEPS. They also state that the Belgian UFO wave would be better studied by people in the human sciences than by physicists. In the Belgian UFO wave of 1989 to 1992, a neglected hypothesis, Renaud Leclerc and Amp Co. discussed the fact that some sightings can be explained by helicopters. Most witnesses reported that the objects were silent. This report argues that the lack of noise could be due to the engine noise in the witnesses' automobiles, or strong natural wind blowing away from the witnesses. In his article The Beginning of the Belgian UFO Wave, Jean-Michel Abrassat argues that the beginning of the wave does not contradict the psychosocial hypothesis, contrary to what the SOBEPS claimed in his work. In an article published on his website in 2011, The Belgian Wave and the Photos of Ramelis, Auguste Meeson replied to several skeptical criticisms and still argues that, according to him, the Belgian UFO wave is completely unexplained. Roger Paquet and Jean-Michel Abrassat both wrote rebuttals to the Belgian physicist's article, Books, Vagovni sur la Belgique, written by the defunct SOBEPS organization.